Hi, everyone. My name is Nick, and I'm the founder of RevUp Dental. Today, we're interviewing Tim Brown, who's the CEO of ROI Corp. He's a good friend of mine and a huge wall of knowledge about the dental industry. Now, Tim, on a recent call, you mentioned something that I thought was very interesting, really made me change my mind about a few things. And I thought, dentists might be interested to know too. For the longest time, whenever someone's come to us, like as an associate or a new dentist, and they ask for advice on where should I buy a practice, I always tell them, do your research and buy a practice in the area that has the most economic opportunity. But you mentioned something that really kind of made me rethink this, and that there's a lot of value in buying a practice that, it's in a community you want to live in and you want to be part of. Because if you're just going there to work and then you get in your car and you drive home to where you actually live, people will notice that you're just a dentist that just comes in for some money, but you don't really care about the community. You don't show up to the events. You're not part of the, charity work, things like that. And that actually does affect you negatively over the long term. So I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about this sort of problem and give us your view on it.
So let's go back to what was taught and is still taught at the dental school level about selecting a place to practice dentistry, a location. There's always been bantered about some slide rule formulas, some quick calculations as to the ratio of dentist to patient. And doctor, you should go where there's a lot more patients than there are dentists, because that means more people to treat. And that's absolutely true. But quite frankly, anything within 2 hours today of any major city in Toronto is oversaturated with dentists. So those ratios, as much as they do matter, they don't matter as much anymore, because there's too many dentists, too many dental offices everywhere. So let's just say that exists, and it's just not as important as it used to be. And by the way, that ratio used to be 1 to 1,500, one dentist to 1,500 people. And of course, there's other calculations we can make for the competency of calculations for equivalent full-time. If you count the number of dentists in the book in a town like, say, Brampton, but if one of them works 1 day a week and one works 2 days a week, that's not equivalent full-time capacity. Our company does those calculations. But more importantly, what I've said to dentists over the years is, sure, there's high growth in, say, Milton, Ontario, or in Oshawa, Ontario. There's new housing, there's new populations. But everywhere that happens, there's new plazas. And all of those plazas contain a new dental office that does not have any patients at the starting date. So they're trying to absorb the new population as much as any other dental practice in town is. So putting all of that aside for a minute, and the old real estate adage is location, location, location. Sure. Right. Why don't you practice where you want to practice? Why don't you consider practicing where you want to live? And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, commuting. The less a dentist commutes to work, the more time they have to either dedicate to the business and grow it for marketing and other opportunities, or more time for family. So I know dentists that are commuting a minimum 1 hour a day each way, 2 hours a day, 10 hours a week to go to where the money is or to where the opportunity is, but they're not happy. They don't like the commute, and they're spending 10 hours of their life driving. And sure, we can talk on the phone and make some productive time of drive time, but I don't want to do that. So putting that aside and just going down to the core of it is practice and live in the community where you want to be first, and an opportunity will eventually come available there if you're patient enough. And if you can't find a practice to buy, you can certainly start one there, and you will be happier. And if you dedicate your non-practice hours to living, working, shopping, and supporting that community, the patients will know that. They'll know that you're part of their area, and they will refer to you and support you much more vibrantly than the Monday to Friday dentist who drives in the morning, drives out at night, and is never seen on the weekends.
Yeah, I mean, this happens even with SEO as well, because we get dentists that reach out to us and they say, I want to be number one on Google. It's like, okay, great. Now, if no one in the area is doing much of anything, it might be easy to accomplish that. But Google looks at like 200 different factors when deciding, which practice to show where. And the factors that it puts the most weight on are the ones that are very difficult to sort of fake. So if you are talked about in the community, like there's articles written about your practice because, maybe you sponsor and show up to the Santa Claus parade, maybe you are involved in charity work in the community, maybe you are doing some really great events and things like that. That is really hard to replicate unless the dentist is very involved. So we've had cases where we tell them, it's like the top 3 dentists in this area, you're not going to beat them by sprinkling some SEO here. Like, these people are very involved. They get, Readers' Choice Awards. They're involved in the community. They're running events. They're doing a lot of good work here. You can't just insert some magic code into your website and all of a sudden you're number one on Google. So sometimes that's not really what they want to hear. And they go and they hire a company who promises them all these things. And of course, a year goes by, they sign a contract, nothing happens. Those top three practices are still the top three practices. And I feel like a lot of people kind of lose sight of the fact that, you have to build a strong relationship in that area. There isn't really a shortcut or a secret, magic switch I'm going to be able to flip for you to fix that. And I think where you and I get along really well is the fact that even though we do marketing, I think a lot of the marketing people spend their money on is just complete nonsense. People just kind of lose sight of the fact that you have to build a good relationship. You have to focus on referrals. You have to focus on getting to know your patient. Everybody's shopping around for this automation software. If this will automate your patient recall, this will automate communication. It's like, well, what do you do then? What do you this isn't a vending machine, you have to be involved with these people.
Well, sure. I mean, a lot of the talk in this search engine optimization is about organic visits and organic views. And organic suggests that these are people that are seeking you, finding you, liking you, reviewing you, commenting on you. And if you want organic support, you need to organically be part of the community in which you serve.
Absolutely.
And a good successful dental practice in Canada needs somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 loyal, reliable, good, high dental IQ patients. You only need 1,500 to 2,000 solid patients. And from them, referrals will come. 80% of your new patients will probably come for your existing patients. 20% of your new patients will come from all the other things that you're trying to do, including services like yours, Nick. So if we just spent more time organically investing in the people we already have as customers or patients, and spent a little time supporting them in their community, and there's many ways to do that, your practice would grow organically quite handsomely. But leaving at 5 o'clock on a Thursday and not coming back till Monday morning, I don't think that's cool anymore. And I don't care how you measure that community or that town or that city or that block. You have competition. It is around you. There will be more competition. So living and working immediately in the area where you wish to practice dentistry, in my opinion, is the best investment you can make in deriving referral for new patients to your practice.
I mean, even the time you save with commuting is very valid, right? I mean, it's an hour each way if you don't factor in traffic, but sometimes people get stuck there for 3 hours a day driving. It's like, if you just invest an extra hour, calling up your patients or being involved in some sort of community events, it'll have a much greater impact on your business long term. And Google can measure this too. I mean, if somebody is looking for Dr. Brown in the community, Google sees that and it understands that for whatever reason, this doctor is really popular. The people are looking for them, and those signals they have a huge impact on how you rank on Google. And it's something because Google knows you can't really fake that. It's very difficult. I mean, back before we started to specialize in dentistry, so about 3 or 4 years ago, we were working with all kinds of different companies, real estate agents, car dealerships, engineering companies. Now, I remember the interesting one was the real estate side of things. We would work with very successful real estate teams. So we worked with one team in Niagara. I was run by two guys, Jerry Hendricks and Sean Delod. I hope they don't mind me saying their name. They were phenomenal real estate agents. They both sold well over 100 homes a year. But when you got to know them, nothing was really automated. I mean, these people really cared. They would call up every client. They would, spend a lot of time delivering value. There was no automation involved. They were just genuinely kind-hearted people that wanted to help. Now, as they grew, they started hiring other agents to be part of their team. But a lot of these agents, what they were asking from us is, I want a tool that lets me send out an email to everybody automatically. And I would sit down with them and say, you realize your boss who sells 120, 150 homes a year, they don't do that. They actually pick up the phone and they call people and they write a handwritten letter once in a while and they show up with a gift, why don't you do that? And they would say, well, that's going to take too much time. And, there's so many people I need to talk to. And I would sit down and ask them, do you ever wonder, maybe this is why you only sell 5 houses a year and the other person sells 120? It's because it's not the automation that you need. It's the relationship building, and you're losing sight of that. And of course, this is not what a lot of young people wanted to hear, because we grew up in this world of like everything is digital. It's technology for everything to make life easier. But I think people lose sight of the basic principles that are fundamental to running a good business that were just as valid 100 years ago as they are today.
I guess I could say this to any business person, a real estate agent, yourself. I practice this myself, any dentist. Return every phone call same day, return every text same day, within reason. I know sometimes they come late at night and that might be too late that day, but 24 hours is kind of the golden rule today. And even if you don't want to respond to somebody, respond. And if you don't have anything to report, let them know you don't have anything meaningful to report, but you're working on it, and you will get back to them when you have something to report. And that can go to salesperson in any organization, even the dentists of this community. There are some times where we have some difficult conversations to have with people, and have them and get it over with, and do your best. Apologize if you've made a mistake, but be human. And I think that that's what we're forgetting about here with all of this automation and technology. We're using Zoom today to do this. I miss meeting people in person. I just don't do anywhere near as much of that as I used to. Very little in the last year, of course, very little. And I kind of miss that dynamic. Now, Zoom has given me some ability to, interact like this, but 80% of your new patients will come from your existing satisfied patients. What have you done to satisfy an existing patient today?
Yeah, because they often just check a box in their mind that they're already our patient. We're already done the work, and now let's focus on new patients. It's like, hold on a sec, that's not how this works. Once you get them, you still have to deliver value to them continuously, right? I mean, the way it works is, if a customer comes in and you do a really great job for them, you go above and beyond and you exceed their expectations, they're going to turn from a customer to a repeat customer, right? Now, if you continue to wow them every time, they come in and you go above and beyond for them and they see that and they appreciate that, they're going to turn from a repeat customer into a promoter. And that promoter is going to promote you to their friends and family and colleagues and everyone else. And that repeats the whole cycle. But if you stop at they're already our patient, we don't need to wow them anymore, let's just send them on some automatic email updates or automatic, appointment reminders, whenever talk to them again, that cycle doesn't actually continue. And then you're always at the mercy of trying to get more new patients through marketing. Whereas, what we're really trying to focus, why we call it RevUp Dental, is you need to get that wheel to keep spinning, right? Because then, you're not losing a lot of your momentum that way. Yeah. Now, what do you think about, reputations the practice have built? So if I'm trying to buy a practice, I'm trying to sell my practice, how does the reputation of the practice have in that community matter? Like, if they're the highest reviewed practice in the area, does that affect the price somehow? Like, is it worth it for dentists to spend the time to actually build a good reputation for the purpose of trying to sell their business?
Yes. Reputation management, I don't like to say social media anymore. I like to call it reputation management in the professional community, because you will be rated and reviewed whether you want to be or not, because people can do that without your permission or your knowledge in some cases. So yeah, reputation management means a great deal. We don't appraise reputation. We appraise revenue and we appraise profitability. And a practice with a stellar reputation, with lots of five-star reviews and great commentary on all social mediums, whatever they may be, will have more referral and have more revenue and have more profit, and it will be more valuable. A practice with the opposite, which is luckily few and far between, but there have been some very bad commentaries made about dental practices on social media. Well, that will immediately start to affect existing patients who might lose confidence and not come back. That's a drain on the practice. It'll probably dramatically cut off incoming inbound referrals, and that will definitely distinctly reveal itself. Usually takes about 6 months to a year for a crisis to reveal itself financially. Sometimes it's sometimes it's more lingering, what we call latent revenue loss. It could take up to a year, and then you'll realize that your practice is not doing well. And if that was just a silly reputation challenge that was defensible and could have been addressed head on by dealing with it, you might have prevented a continual loss. So just to repeat, we do not appraise reputation. Great reputations are great practices that do sell for higher prices.
Yeah, because I've seen dentists buy practices that they have to rebrand, mostly because there's articles written about them about some misconduct by the previous dentist, or maybe just bad reviews. And it is a huge hassle, because a lot of them, they think it's as easy as switching the logo over. It's like, it's not that simple, because you're going to lose a lot of the reviews. You're going to lose a lot of the links that, you're getting value from Google, because you have to start with a brand new name. And what's sort of a double whammy in this situation is, because dental practices fall under a medical category, Google scrutinizes these businesses a lot more. So it's not like if you're selling a pair of sneakers. I mean, it's okay to have a business that came out of nowhere because it's a trendy kind of topic. Right. Anything medical, financial, anything to do with advice that could potentially harm somebody, Google doesn't want some fly-by-night business to show up on the top of the search results, right? If somebody's looking for a cure to their problem, they don't want to find some website that is promoting some miracle cure, some herbal cure from, something silly. So what happens from a practical sense is, when you create a new brand, a new website, a new name to the practice, you're starting from square one. And you really have to rely heavily on paid advertising for that first year until Google sees enough credibility that it can trust you to recommend you as a medical office, right? Exactly. So they buy a practice, has a bad reputation. They think, oh, we'll just change the logo and it's going to fix everything. It's like, no, it won't. It's going to be a good year to try to get things back on track.